Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm your host John, and today here on the channel we're going to be talking about A History of Violence and its brand new Criterion Collection 4K Blu-ray that just came out. But first, before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if you don't want to know anything about the film A History of Violence and you're only here to find out about the quality of that 4K Blu-ray, you guys can skip ahead to that review right now. So back in 2005, directed by David Cronenberg, we got the film A History of Violence, which is actually based on a 1997 DC comic, which is pretty interesting because this doesn't really feel like your conventional comic book film. It feels a lot like Road to Perdition, though, which is also based on a DC comic, so they kind of have that similarity, came out at a similar time. But this is also not the kind of film you would expect from David Cronenberg, the king of body horror. I mean, this is the guy who gave us movies like The Fly and Videodrome, so this is not I mean, he made the movie Crash. If you've never seen 1996's Crash, that movie is absolutely insane. It's about people who have a fetish for getting in car accidents. A very original kind of film, just not my kind of film. But this movie feels like a very straightforward David Cronenberg film, kind of toning back some of the stuff he usually does. This and like Eastern Promises, like those two movies that kind of stand out in his filmography as kind of being a little bit different. I mean, it does kind of make sense. We probably think of guys like David Cronenberg as like these weird kind of guys, but he just seems like a normal guy who just happened to be interested in like these psychological horror films, you know, these films that use really good practical effects, which he does use in this movie because, I mean, it's called A History of Violence, and there are some pretty gruesome scenes in this movie that they even had to edit down because the movie you probably see at home right now is the international cut of the film, which just extends out two scenes. The one scene where the one guy gets his nose broken, it gets like pretty much jammed back in his head. You know, it was too brutal to get the R rating, and against later in the movie when a guy gets his neck broken, they cut that just a little bit to try and get that R rating. And I guess it worked because, I mean, it is a pretty violent film, but nothing compared to movies like The Fly or my personal favorite, Dead Ringers from David Cronenberg. No, this is just a straightforward, very interesting story. Has one of my all-time favorite tropes in film history, which is you don't know who the fuck you're messing with. But like, think of John Wick. Like, you don't know the guy who you're messing with. And unfortunately, this movie starts out for a couple of guys, you know, they're criminals, they're murderers, they're real pieces of shit. They come into town, they go to a diner, order some coffee, and they think they're going to do what they just did at this motel, which is kill everyone there and I guess take all their money. But unfortunately, things go wrong because the guy who owns this diner, Viggo Mortensen, well, he has other plans in place, and he kills them both, and pretty easily, and it looks like he knows his way with a gun. And, you know, of course, they start showing this on the news, and he becomes a local hero. Well, that's going to draw the attention of some people like Ed Harris. And Ed Harris's character happens to be somebody from the past of Viggo Mortensen's character, and he knows him right away. He keeps calling him Joe. He's like, that's not my name. My name is Tom Stahl. He's like, all right, Joey.
You're the big hero.
Really don't like to talk about it, sir.
You sure took care of those two bad men, Joey.
You know, he's sitting at the bar with his buddy, one of his goons, and they know who this is. But Viggo Mortensen's like, that's not me. I'm not that guy. But they're persistent. And I mean, they even start going after his wife at the mall, his kid. And, you know, he wants revenge, mainly because of what happened to his eye. He knows that Joey did that with some barbed wire. And he's like, I'm not Joey. I'm Tom Stahl. And it goes on and on and on until eventually it has to be revealed he has to save his family and kill these guys. And then, of course, it's revealed, hey, you know what? I am Joey. I buried that guy, though. You know, it took me 3 years to get rid of him, which is probably one of the best scenes in the movie when he's in the hospital bed, just because the way that David Cronenberg lights this movie. It's a David Cronenberg film through and through. It's only 96 minutes. You know, a different director would probably have him in the hospital bed talking about how he changed his life, how he became Tom Stahl, and they would probably flash back and show us that. They never show us anything that Joey did back when he lived in Philadelphia. We just hear about it, which I like more than actually seeing it because my imagination is going to do much more work than what the film is going to show me. And it makes the length of the movie a little bit shorter, being 96 minutes. It flies by. It's paced perfectly. You might be like, that opening scene with the two guys in the car and they just leave the camera steady the whole time. I think that helps really build up the dread and tension of this movie, and, you know, the fact that these two people are monsters and Viggo Mortensen can take them out pretty damn easily. These are the things that show us the strength of him. Whenever he has to get faced with the violence, he's so good at it. That's what scares his wife and kids, rightfully so. And that's kind of my biggest flaw of this movie, unfortunately, is some of the acting, mainly by the acting by the son and the bully subplot. Like, I get what David Cronenberg and the writer are going for with this movie. They're illustrating, like, there's a legacy of violence, a history of violence in the family. Like his son, despite the fact thinking he grew up in this small town with a small town kind of family, this rural family, you know, everybody knows everybody, he's got a violent streak in him. And if people keep fucking with him, I mean, we have stereotypical bullies in this movie. Even in 2005, that was really long in the tooth. And just, I was in school in 2005. I never in my life met people like the bullies in this movie, like the stereotypical movie bullies. They're just so over the top. And honestly, the actors that play the bullies and then even play Viggo Mortensen's son, not necessarily the greatest, and they have a lot of time dedicated to them. But I know what they're going for, so I kind of give it a little bit of a pass, but the acting is just, it's a little tough, and honestly, that's what I take the most points off for. And actually, a criticism I did have, you know, because this is only the second time I've seen this movie. The first time I saw this movie was actually in Ocean City, Maryland in 2015 on an iPad. I was just watching a movie in a hotel room. I was with my wife, and I love the movie then, but this is only the second time I've seen it, so when William Hurt came in later in the movie as Joey's brother, I was like, oh, William Hurt, and then he's doing this Philadelphia accent, and I wanted to come on here and trash that accent.
Jesus, Joey.
But it's actually pretty accurate, and when you watch the special features and hear him talking about getting that accent, you know, it's supposed to be Philadelphia, not New York. A lot of people think of the mafia, organized crime. They think of New York. They don't necessarily think of Philadelphia, and that's what he was going for. I still think it's a little bit over the top, that ending scene. You know, that scene in the third act where he goes to his brother's house and just takes out the entire family. William Hurt he's really funny in those moments. How could you fuck that up? And then he's like, Jesus Christ, Joey. And then he kills him. He's like, Jesus Christ, Richie. Absolutely hysterical, in my opinion. You know, in a movie that's very serious, I do like the little bits of comedy throughout, kind of lighten it up. I think it works very well for this film. I mean, and overall, it's a very good movie. Definitely something that would probably rise to the top of in David Cronenberg's filmography, even though it's not your classic David Cronenberg film. It just shows, you know what, the guy's just a fantastic director no matter which way you spin it. It definitely has certain elements. Obviously, there is some images of people dying. It's some close-ups of, you know, their bodies just disheveled now, which is right up David Cronenberg's alley. So there's still some usual David Cronenberg stuff in there, but I'm surprised at everything else around it. You know, sometimes his movies can feel like, we're building up, but you know, it's really about these body horror effects, even though he knows how to direct characters fantastically. I mean, movies like The Fly are heartbreaking, even though it's this big, disgusting fly monster in front of you. It still works 100%. And that's why The Fly, and I really love Jeremy Irons playing twins in Dead Ringers. I still think that's his best film. But this movie is also great. I've only watched this movie twice, but I've enjoyed it both times very much. It's only 95 minutes, like I've said, so it flies by. It's one of those movies you can easily re-watch. I think everyone, for the most part, is doing a good job acting. Some of the teenage actors who probably aren't teenagers, they need a little bit of help, but all the leads, Ed Harris, William Hurt, Maria Bello, and of course Viggo Mortensen, they all do fantastic jobs, and it's a very rewatchable film, so I could definitely recommend this film, even if you're not going to watch this new Criterion 4K Blu-ray that we're going to talk about right now.
Tell me the truth. What are you?
Well, here it is, A History of Violence on 4K Blu-ray, which came out the exact same day as Altered States, which I believe was October 21st, 2025. Why is that interesting? Well, William Hurt is in both those movies, so I thought that was pretty interesting. He's not really the star of this movie. The star of this movie is Viggo Mortensen, and I love the artwork that they did here with the Criterion Collection. You know, obviously not the original movie poster, but I think it works really well. When you come inside, you got your reading material right here. Obviously, being a diner guy that he is, there's the black coffee that people, numerous times people came in and ordered black coffee. I could relate. I love black coffee. And $1.99 at a diner in 2005, that's not bad. It's not bad. It's not the 75 cents like in Midnight Run where you can get a cup of coffee or a black tea, but $1.99 ain't too bad. You get a 2-disc set right here. You get a 4K Blu-ray, and you get a downgraded version to 1080p Blu-ray. The 4K Blu-ray is where you have all the bells and whistles like HDR10 and Dolby Vision. It's in the aspect ratio of 1.85, so it's going to fill up your entire screen. Your Blu-ray will also feature all of your extras or supplements, as the Criterion Collection likes to call them. And there's a brand new making of documentary on there that's about an hour long, and that is the coup de grace of special features when it comes to me personally. I love a documentary about the making of the movie, any movie like that. I don't care. I just love seeing the entire process, and they really break it down for you. They split it up into acts, into scenes. You have so many aspects, just like the actors walking through with the director of like where they're going to be, what I want you to do. Such a fascinating making of. I absolutely loved it. Just even showing us how, you know, they got to do certain shots. Like, okay, we need to go through 3 phases of makeup, so we're going to get some shots of you here where you're, you know, actor has to like lift his head up twice as they bang the nose back and like, okay, come over here, we put more makeup on you, then they do it again. I love the filmmaking process, and this documentary leaves no stone unturned. I mean, seriously, watch the movie, then watch the making of. It's fantastic. There's some other really good featurettes as well. I mean, that making of isn't new. I should be clear on that. That did come out in 2005, so I'm sure that's on a previous physical media release. I just don't have this movie at all on physical media, so that's the first time I've seen it. Most of the featurettes on here are actually previously released featurettes. I believe there's only 2 that are brand new, so I should really knock the Criterion Collection for this because, you know, they didn't really go out and get that many brand new special features. They also reused the same exact audio track, which is a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1. And I actually didn't even think that audio track was that bad. Actually, it's pretty good. It's not, you know, Dolby Atmos levels, but for a reused audio track, I was pretty impressed with it. Everything comes in crisp and clear. It's a dialogue-heavy film, but there are some pretty decent action scenes in this movie. And you want all that to, like, you know, build up the tension. You want all of that to like kind of get under your skin. You want it to be loud in those moments. And it is. It does the job that it's supposed to do. It's just, that's the one thing with the Criterion Collection lately, and especially over the last few years, is they don't really go out of their way for the audio. They kind of just accept whatever the audio is as fine, and usually it's not really that bad. But in comparison to the great visuals, which we do have HDR10 and Dolby Vision on here, and, you know, maybe this isn't as good as like Nightmare Alley's release or Brazil's release in the year of 2025, but it's still got some pretty fantastic visuals. You know, everything looks great. You know, we're like in the Midwest, so we're all the detail on everybody's face. And there are a lot of close-ups, like on some of those brutal kills. So people linger a little bit on somebody's face, and everything looks clear as day. So the sharpness is great. The colors look fantastic. Not the most colorful film. They're kind of going with this like mid-2000s color palette. Think of like kind of like flatter greens, browns, oranges. You know, anytime something really colorful comes into the film, it really does stand out, like the Bully's blue and yellow jacket. Like, that's the stuff where you're like, yeah, that's a beautiful fucking looking 4K Blu-ray. I just don't know if I can put it in the upper echelon of the best visual releases of 2025. And realistically, this isn't necessarily one of Criterion's best releases that we've had this year. It's a very good one. It's for a movie that, you know, David Cronenberg, another director, has a great working relationship with the Criterion Collection, like Guillermo del Toro does or Wes Anderson does. David Cronenberg also has had a lot of his movies come to 4K Blu-ray or Blu-ray through the Criterion Collection. After Hours is one of those movies that a lot of people wanted to come to 4K Blu-ray, add to their collection, and it's a very good 4K Blu-ray release. I just can't say it's one of the best. Like, Criterion kind of has like 2 sides to them. So now you have like the lazy side, and then they have the like upper tier side, where they're going to give us some of the best releases of the year, like Nightmare Alley. This is a little bit closer to like Altered States, where it's a little bit of a lazy release, but overall it's still a good release. Mainly that making of documentary, even though it's old, that was something I absolutely loved. The visual presentation is great. Would have loved some better audio, but still the audio that's on here is more than fine. Nothing really nothing I can complain too much about. I think you guys will be happy with it. This is definitely one with the November Barnes & Noble sale coming up. I would recommend grabbing in the 50% off sale. I can't really justify paying full price for it. If I was going to give it a score of 1 to 10, I'm going to give A History of Violence on 4K Blu-ray through the Criterion Collection an 8 out of 10. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys. So if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel, like John Doe Juggalo, Ben Rondo, and Harvey Scott, you can do that. Or you can even become a channel director, like Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, Kevin Kruger, Uncle V, Nicholas Head, and of course, Stone. Yes, man, you can do that. Or you can even bump it up to the channel bankroll members like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you have no money to throw my way, I don't mind at all. I just hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.